Something is going on in the movie industry. Over the past decade, it's been clear that movies, like in general, are kind of going downhill in quality. Disney and Pixar have sparked massive talking points over how much they rely on sequels and live action. While movies like Mufasa and Lilo and Stitch and the too many sequels to Toy Story did well, movies like the Snow White live action, Lightyear, and Captain America Brave New World bombed heavy at the box office. And it's seen in other studios too. While How to Train Your Dragon and One Piece have been received well, they've sparked conversations about why. What is the point of taking timeless, amazing movies and turning them into spin-offs and sequels and live actions that just are not needed? And then when something original is finally done, like Elio, they don't market it enough and blame us, the viewers, saying we clearly prefer live actions and sequels. So almost like the jaded old freaks running these multi-billion-dollar companies don't actually care about what is good and relatable to the viewers and just want money. That'd be crazy though, right? However, a change is happening. Recently, we've seen not only an increase in original movies coming from larger companies, but also a massive increase in interest in more indie, smaller projects. Some of these projects becoming even as big as mainstream multi-billion-dollar movies. One of the most recent examples, like literally past week recent, and one of the ones that I've personally seen, is The Backrooms. And I know it's controversial, but hear me out. The Backrooms is a psychological horror movie made by Kane Parsons, also known as Kane Pixels on his YouTube channel. Mind you, Kane is 21 years old, and I'm recording this on June 1st. The movie dropped 3 days ago, and it's already the 21st highest grossing movie of the year, and we're almost halfway through the year. And it wouldn't surprise me if in the coming days it surpasses The Drama, Obsession, even GOAT. I saw the movie on the 31st, and I understand that it's controversial, but I personally thought the movie was spectacular. It was beautifully shot, terrifying, the acting was spectacular, oh my god. And the actors are key because these aren't big actors in Hollywood. I mean, don't get me wrong, the star actor Chiwetel Ejiofor has done amazing projects, has won awards, is a millionaire, but he's not mainstream. Most people, I don't think, went to see The Backrooms for him. Meanwhile, the Super Mario movie likely peddles a lot of its older audience with actors like Chris Pratt, Brie Larson, Jack Black, and basically like half the cast. And Project Hail Mary has Sandra Huller and the Ryan Gosling, as well as both being a part of massive franchises, unlike more indie projects like The Backrooms and especially Obsession. Another good example is the Amazing Digital Circus, which for one, from what I can tell, has zero big names behind it, as the production company Glitch became big because of Digital Circus. And while the show has gotten millions of views on YouTube, it also became so big that it was put on Netflix, and for its upcoming finale to be released in theaters, which I think is soon actually. My point is, these smaller projects are doing so well despite having no big names behind them. As a wannabe actor and director, my only other video and my first video only being a short film I made, which is buns, I'll admit. I'm working on a much cooler one right now, so stay tuned for that. But it is so inspiring to see people and directors making movies that aren't tied to million-dollar companies or backed by their parents' millions or billions of dollars to be popular in the industry, which has been the case for basically all of Hollywood. It's also important to note that these movies aren't just popular, they're really good. Backrooms received an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, Obsession got a 96%, and I Love Boosters, another smaller movie that performed pretty well, got a 92. Meanwhile, Mario Galaxy got a 42, Scream 7 got a 30, and FNAF 2 from last year, or I guess last year, got a 17. Not that Rotten Tomatoes are a definitive answer to like what is a good movie and what is a bad movie. Obviously, a bunch of movies that are high on Rotten Tomatoes are also bad, but most of the time, critics are a little bit more reliable on what is a good movie or a bad movie as opposed to like nostalgia-driven fans. And I'm saying that as a nostalgia-driven fan. I believe that 2026 is sort of a turning point in the film industry with how indie animators have proved themselves to be more reliable and to release more entertaining content as opposed to the cold repetitiveness of billion-dollar companies and their Toy Story 5s and Moana live actions. Onto the point of these smaller companies making better content than bigger ones, I want to highlight some of the clear ones from 2026. So far, at least. While Elio was finally an original Disney movie, it bombed at the box office because of Disney's probably intentional piss-poor marketing. They then blamed us, saying we clearly did want live actions and sequels, but then their own retort backfired on them when they released Hoppers, which I did go to see in April and was both a very good and very OG Disney feeling movie, and also did awesome at the box office, currently standing at around $372 million, and the budget was about $150 million, meaning they more than doubled their budget, but it was also well received. But Disney is not the only company doing this. Netflix has recently, and still currently has, many smaller animated movies coming out, a lot of which are blowing up the charts. K-Pop Demon Hunters broke so many records, and while it wasn't my personal cup of tea, I thought it was okay. It got a 91% on the critic viewing of Rotten Tomatoes, and a 99 on the viewer portion. Swapped was another big success for Netflix, despite it not being being really hyped up before it came out. And Netflix is on a roll with GOAT and In Your Dreams coming out to pretty good reviews. And while GOAT specifically is separate from Netflix, it's not a Netflix original, it's still currently the 12th highest grossing movie of the year. And I just want to put my own personal bias in, but Nimona, the movie from 2023, is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it occurred because of Netflix picking up a plot that Disney dropped because of the main characters being gay, which is kind of sad, but also like hilarious because then Nimona did really good too. My point is though, that it seems like hopefully larger companies are now realizing that they can't just put out slop of a big franchise and expect it to quadruple the budget. Snow White Live was especially a really big turning point in Disney realizing this, in how the budget to make the movie was about $300 to $350 million, and it grossed $250 million, resulting in a $100 million box office loss. And before anyone says it was Rachel Zegler's fault because she played Snow White, get the hell out of my face.
Rachel Zegler is a moving and spectacular actress who was amazing in Evita and The Hunger Games, and who made a bunch of really good points about how disgusting and icky the original Snow White was when she was on those controversial red carpet interviews.
So don't piss me off. I love Rachel Zegler. And she acted really well in the movie too, which is actually kind of sad how much she actor mogged Gal Gadot. And Gal Gadot is also a terrible actress and an even worse person, so criticism of her is wanted here. Realistically, if there was any actor that caused it to bomb, it was Gal Gadot. And also the plot was just bad. The writers just did not know what they were doing. It was a remake of an older movie, and specifically the first ever Disney movie. The target audience for the live action should have been older people. You know, the people who actually grew up with the original Snow White. But it seemed like they changed things for it to fit the younger generation, and it just made everyone hate it. Isn't it ironic that they turned down a movie for being quote unquote woke, and then they literally made a terrible movie, which was just Snow White, the woke version? And my final point is the recent rise of psychological and politically satire films. I mean, I sure am not the only person noticing the recent rise and interest in thrillers and psychological horror. This past month alone having The Backrooms, Obsession, Passenger, The Bride, and soon Resident Evil. And I guess there was Scream 7, but we don't talk about that one. And last year there was The Menu, Begonia, Sinners, practically the whole Best Picture category for the Oscars, and the winner, of course, also being a thriller, one battle after another. Plus, in the current political state and economic state of the world, are we too surprised that a lot of these films have deeper messages in relation to capitalism and human greed and asking for consent? With the rise of AI, people have taken sides with what I would say is the biggest debate in the film industry right now, and also just the arts in general.
Fucking generative AI. Do not use generative AI for anything art related or anything in general. Eradicate generative AI.
For those people that are too woke, there is a difference between generative AI and, you know, like system. What is the other? There is a difference between generative AI and analytical AI. I don't know if it's called analytical AI, but it, you know, because who the hell wants a soulless, creativeless shell of what humans are to make you a movie? It's still wild to me that there are people out there who actually exist and breathe and drink water and eat food that actually want that.
You want AI to make your movies and your music and your art? Want it to spoon feed you too?
Sorry about that. Sorry. I apologize. As much as I've heard people argue about it, filmography is an art. Something that has meaning and something that a human being intended to be behind it. And AI cannot replicate that. I think an interesting example is Obsession, which I have not watched, but I have seen the rave reviews and also have seen how it clearly has a strong message about consent. If you don't know, and the little things that I do know, the main character in the movie, Bear, is obsessed with this girl named Nikki, but from what I can tell, she's not interested in him at all. However, one day he finds this one wish willow which can grant him any wish, and he asks for Nikki to be infatuated with him, which was not a very good idea if you cannot tell. And because of the magic, she does. But because of how obsessed Bear was with her, she becomes absolutely ruthlessly clingy and obsessed with him, going as far as to publicly flip out around everybody because he asked her a question about her personal self, because this obsessed Nikki isn't the real Nikki. Anyway, in reference to consent, there's a part where Bear and Nikki get down and freaky for a little bit, and in this scene, allegedly, there's some part in Nikki's eyes or mannerisms that almost seems like she's screaming for help, which is the real Nikki screaming for help inside of the obsessed Nikki, since she's basically fully lost control of her body and mind, and she does not want to get down and freaky with Bear, but they do it anyway because she's been forced to be obsessed with Bear. And it's so sad to see people, basically mostly guys of course, saying, oh my god, Nikki's the scary one, Nikki's the obsessed one. Most girls nowadays are just like her. Because no, you just missed the main point of the entire movie. Bear was the obsessed one. Nikki might have been visibly more haunting, but Bear's actions and his intentions and his interactions with Nikki before and after the movie are significantly more than anything she did. Besides just getting to talk about the Backrooms and Obsession, and some people having absolutely no media literacy or brain capacity in the slightest, my point is that recent movies have taken stronger and bigger messages against things things we face in society today. I mean, even movies that don't have that much to say besides what's there clearly on screen. There's been a lot of things placed in these movies very specifically that causes people to interpret it in different ways. An example being how many people, including myself, interpreted the Backrooms, and I mean the literal yellow-walled Backrooms, like the parallel world in the movie, as commentary on AI, with no matter how hard it tries to replicate what is human and real, it just can't. Similar with how AI can create similar art to humans, but it cannot create the emotion and intention behind the art. Humans dictate what AI does, and the real world dictates how the Backrooms is. It's also seen with how the company in the Backrooms, Async, keeps exploring the Backrooms despite its clear, danger to society and people entirely, in order to fully use it for their own gain, almost fully paralleling our real-world companies like OpenAI, Google, and Apple, continuing to implement AI everywhere despite its clear danger to humans. But that's pretty much it. Recently, I've gotten into movies a lot, if you can't tell, and it's very clear that despite the dreadful few years it's been in cinema, 2026 seems to be a turning point, especially in reference to indie projects and companies finally getting the recognition they deserve. So, thank the film gods. If you liked this video, it really encouraged me to make more. I will either way, because it was really fun to do this. It'd be really cool if you liked or maybe even subscribed. It helps tell YouTube that my video wasn't a big pile of garbage, and that makes me happy. And if you do want to subscribe, I have a bunch of new videos on the way, some about cinema and other movies, and some just in reference to media in general, that I've got prepared and I want to talk about. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.